Oh, say, can you see? Yeah. Remember that joke? Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are Friday, the first day of April 2022. And on Fridays, we have an abbreviated teaching session because we got some men coming in Cornerstone Church at 7 o'clock in the morning, as we do every Friday. I want to let you know is that I'm showing a current temperature of 39 degrees. We have a 5-mile-an-hour breeze here in Las Vegas with coming out of the south-southwest. Humidity is currently at 45%. A barometric yeah, that one is 29.56 inches and holding steady. Full weather report coming up for you at the bottom of the hour. And I've already stated is that we'll cut this off a few minutes before 7 o'clock this morning because during 7 and 8 o'clock we have a rebroadcast of our sermon from Sunday at Cornerstone Church. And you people that might be already joining us on our social media sites, you can listen to this Sunday sermon off of our Facebook or our YouTube channel. That's all available for you. So let's get smack dab into the middle of it this morning before I get distracted onto a lot of other things that are going on. Let us focus. Talking to myself as much as anybody. Let us focus. Verse 21, chapter 14, 1 Kings is where we left off on yesterday's program. We have a divided kingdom. We have Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, in the chair in the throne of the southern kingdom, which basically comprises of the tribe of Judah and, like I tell you, Benjamin. They're not sure where they fit, north, south, east, west. They're right next to Judah, so they've always been kind of connected with Judah. Benjamin was the tribe that Saul came out of. So that's a little bit where that connection comes from. Then we have Jeroboam, who was a servant and a captain in the army of Solomon, who was taken the northern kingdom. And there's been this whole prophetic statement. Jeroboam had been asked by the Lord. And notice the Lord doesn't, the Lord says, hey, here's the commandments, here's the statutes, here's what I'm looking out of you. All you got to do is do your part and I'll do everything else. Well, neither one of them is doing it. Solomon even drifted away, as we found out ourselves. Verse 21, chapter 14 says, And Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, reigned in Judah. Rehoboam was 41 years old when he became king. He reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city which the Lord Yahweh had chosen out of all the tribes of Israel to put his name there. So that's important, that Jerusalem is the place, just like Israel as a country. You know, there's a psalm. And I think that many of us are, us, I'm talking about all of us, we're pretty oblivious that there was a time that God broke up the world and appointed different people over different areas, but he kept Israel for himself. Still, he rules and reigns over it all. But he had appointed regents, spiritual authorities, and powers that actually rebelled against him. But he has chosen this one land called Israel, and this one people that came out of Abraham to be his special people. And in there is a city called Jerusalem. And in the city, if you want to even narrow it down a little bit, is a hill called Mount Zion, where the temple was. And Solomon built the temple. And Rehoboam is watching over it. And he has been reigning in Jerusalem for 17 years. The city which the Lord Yahweh had chosen out of all the tribes of Israel to put his name there. His mother's name was Naamah, an Ammonitess. Now, Judah did evil in the sight of the Lord and they provoked him to jealousy with the sins which they committed more than all that their fathers had done. So sometimes we look, I have to be a little bit more on spot by saying by not using the plural pronoun and say I. Sometimes I'm after the northern kingdom. We got a lot of things going on in the northern kingdom, but the southern kingdom, has just as many problems. Now Judah did evil in the sight of the Lord. They provoked him to jealousy with their sins which they committed more than all their fathers had done. They also, let me clear that screen off a little bit, for they also built for themselves high places. It was going on in the north, it was going on in the south. When we talk about the high places, we're talking about shrines, temples, altars to false gods. The gods of the Ammonites and the Moabites and all the different Amalekites, whatever was out over there, these were gods that Solomon had really allowed. He had opened up the door for these because of the women that he married. We went through that already. So in Judah, they built for themselves high places, sacred pillars, wooden images on every high hill and under every green tree. Well, we know that's, every high hill. Well, they were all over the place. They were as close as you needed. The cult franchise of Rehoboam was just as thick as the cult franchise of Jeroboam. And the only thing that they had to hang their hat on was that the temple was there. But what these people are doing in Israel, especially in the southern kingdom in these days, is they're doing their temple thing on the temple day, and then they're doing their, sounds kind of like today, their temple thing on the temple day, and then the rest of the time they're doing the Chemosh and Baal and Ashtoreth and whatever was out over there. Go to church in the morning, and then in the evening, who knows what we're doing. For they built for themselves high places, sacred pillars, wooden images on every high hill and under every green tree. Hey, the franchise was growing, and you could get yourself your little image and your little pillar and your little high place wherever you wanted. You might even have one in your own backyard. And there were also perverted persons in the land. Now, try to keep that little those words there, perverted persons. There were also perverted persons in the land. That would be an interesting study. They did according to all the abominations of the nations which the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel. Now, let me just open up the door a little bit. Perverted persons. There is always, when the devil begins to come in, when Satan begins to get there's always sexual perversion that comes along with it. He has this penchant for sexual things out of the confines. Sex was invented by God, not by the devil. Just like everything else. But what the devil does is the devil perverts it. What the devil does is he comes up with his counterfeit and then tries to get us in our minds to justify that, well, it's okay. And, sorry. If the kids tell the kids to go brush their teeth, the kids know more than we do anyway. But it feels good. If it feels good, well, it must be good. Oh, yeah, right. Your flesh, just feed the flesh. So when we start talking about perverted persons, there's a background on this. There were also perverted persons in the land. They did according to all the abominations of the nations which the Lord Yahweh had cast out before the children of Israel. So, here's some of the questions that we had a few books before. Well, why? Why kick out the Moabites? Why kick out the Edomites? Why kick out the Midianites? Why would Judah, what was Moses's, why would these guys come into the land And why would God command them? Now you find out why. It might not made a lot of sense then in our, do-gooder mind set to where we say, well, but, God loves everybody and God created them all and God, well, now you're seeing the why. Joshua, Caleb. Now you can't blame Joshua and Caleb because God in his word had said that they did not drive. Part of the reason they did not drive out all of the land because people wanted the preceding generations to know, or the succeeding generations to know warfare. But now we see that when you leave that door open, the devil comes in. He's a sneaky one, ladies and gentlemen. They did according to all the abominations of the nations which the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel. Chase them out, but you don't take care of business. Every day you gotta be on your guard. Every day you have to guard your heart. Every day. It happened in the 5th year of King Rehoboam that Shishak, the king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem. So, David had brought peace. Solomon, in his best times, had closed the borders. How come Egypt is coming? Because the door's open, ladies and gentlemen. When we tell God we didn't want him to be part of our lives, when we told God that we could do it on our own, when in the 60s came around and we started telling God, well, we don't want you in our schools, and we don't want you in this part of our lives, we don't want you in that part of our lives, and then the storms begin to come, and you start one, and then kind of a natural inclination, we start blaming God for everything. Well, why is this and why is that? Hey, you told me to leave. And this is what's happening. Rehoboam, following in the footsteps of his father Solomon, has all of this idol worship going on, perverted persons in the land. And it just really amazes me many times how God gets the blame for all of this stuff. Well, why? If he is, and why, and why didn't, and oh yeah. It happened in the 5th year of King Rehoboam that Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem. He took away the treasures of the house of the Lord, the treasures of the king's house. He took away everything. He also took away the gold shields which Solomon had made. Remember all those talents of gold and tons of gold that we were talking about? Remember how all the treasuries of Israel as one kingdom, not as two divided kingdoms, had been just it was coming. Silver, the Bible tells us that at one time in the life of Solomon, is that silver was, they didn't even count it. It was so plentiful. It was so valuable anymore. And now, and now, little by little, it's going to, now when you see all the king's treasures and it's not all of it because there's always going to be a little bit more, but little by little, all of that blessing that God, because that's what it was the blessing of God, and all that blessing is starting to leak out little by little. And the king of Egypt comes. Took away the treasures of the house of the Lord, the treasure of the king's house. He took away everything. He also took the gold shields which Solomon had made. We read about those just a few chapters ago. Then King Rehoboam made bronze shields in their place. Oh, they took the gold. Well, let's make them out of bronze, and then we'll color them. Let's get some of that spray paint from Hobby Lobby, and let's make them look like it so everybody thinks that we still got it. It's an outward appearance, but there's an inner problem. King Rehoboam, and we can play the game on the outside. We can learn all the buzzwords. Then King Rehoboam made bronze shields in their place and committed them into the hands of the captains of the guard who guarded the doorway of the king's house. You guys take care of these things. It's your fault that they left to begin with anyway, Never. And whenever the king entered the house of the Lord, the guards carried them, then brought them back into the guard room. It's all a drama. It's all Hollywood is what it is. Whenever the king entered the house, the guards carried them. Then they go put them back on the room again and make sure that nobody's going to take them away. Even there, they're not as valuable because they're not even real gold anymore. Now the rest of the acts of Rehoboam and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the king of Judah? So we can go one of these days to the book of Chronicles where we're headed. But we got 1 Kings, 2 Kings before we can get into 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, and we'll read more about it and give us just a little bit more about what was going on in Rehoboam's life and all the kings, both of the north and the south. There was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all their days. So Rehoboam rested with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. His mother's name was Naamah, an Ammonitess. Then Abijam, his son, reigned in his place. So after his 17 or so years of sitting on the throne of David, Rehoboam passes away. And him and Jeroboam, they've been going after each other all the days of their lives. They've been saying, hey, I'm the guy. No, I'm the guy. No, I'm the guy. No, I'm the guy. Going after each other and trying to see who's the guy. Well, we'll find out more as we get into the next chapter, because just in a few minutes after our weather report, we'll be in the 30 minutes after the hour and a current temperature of 38 degrees. Weatherman says we're looking for a high today around 60 degrees with mostly sunny skies. It's going to be windy with a southwest wind 13 to 23 and gusts up to 32 miles per hour. I got in my first bike ride of the season yesterday. And, some of those lessons that you forget from last season, I went out about 7.5, 8 miles out of town going north toward Mora, and it went pretty well. So I said, I'm going to turn around before I hit this big hill. I'm just going to turn around the first time around. And then the wind was coming against me. I hit a headwind. And I remembered, you got to check those things out before you go out too far. I almost had to walk the bike back. Sunny on Saturday with a high around 70 and a southwest wind 8 to 22, gusts up to 31 miles per hour. And on Sunday, partly cloudy, high around 68, west wind 6 to 14 miles per hour. And that is our updated weather report for today. Let's see if we can go back into our study here in the 15th chapter of, I should have changed that, and I didn't. Want to let you know that prayer line is currently open till 8 o'clock, as it is every morning. Fridays, 505-310-9658. Leonard is out there watching with us. Kristen is watching with us. Chana's out over there. Darlene, my God. Andrea and Tommy, thank you very much. We got a decent group starting off this morning. In the 18th year of the king of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, Abijam became king over Judah. Now, this is where it gets a little bit confusing on my side, and you almost have to have a program, because you got two different kings that are going on for one nation. In God's eyes, this is one people. This is not two people. This is not, in God's eyes, there's not so much a northern or a southern. God sees Israel as his land and the Jewish people as his people. They have their divisions. They have their issues that's going on. And it's a little hard because you got a king here and a king there, and one passes away and somebody takes his place, and then the other one, and you program. Anybody want to buy a program? And I'm sure that you can find on the internet charts that'll help you more with who the king is at a particular time, and keep us a little bit more focused on where we're at. So, in the 18th year of Jeroboam being the northern king, the son of Nebat, Abijam became king over Judah. So here we got this guy named Nebat, what I'm guessing is Rehoboam, was Abijam, became king. He's the son of Nebat. Was that his mother's name? He reigned 3 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name, I guess it wasn't Rehoboam's son, because his mother's name was Maacah. He's the son of Nebat, and that sometimes the son of could be the grandson of. He was the granddaughter of Abishalom. So you figure out, help me out with this, okay? And he walked in the sins of his father, which he had done before him. His heart was not loyal to the Lord his God, as was the heart of his father David. So the successor to Rehoboam's crown is this Abijam. He's going to reign there for 3 years, which isn't very long. He walks in the sins of his father. His heart was not loyal to Yahweh, the same way that David's heart was. Nevertheless, for David's sake, the Lord his God gave him a lamp in Jerusalem by setting up his son after him and by establishing Jerusalem. So there's a connection to David with Abijam. Because God had promised some things to David. And God is not a man that he should lie. We're all sinners, ladies and gentlemen. We've all fallen short of the glory. But we have a free gift in Christ Jesus. Bring us back into relationship with him. Nevertheless, for David's sake, the Lord his God gave him a lamp in Jerusalem by setting up his son after him and by establishing Jerusalem, because David did what was right in the eyes of the Lord and had not turned aside from anything that he had commanded all the days of his life, except in the matter of Uriah the Hittite. And David repented from that, and we know all about it. We've talked about the Psalm. We've talked about the different chapters, or at least some of them. In Chronicles, we'll probably see some more. And there was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all the days of his life. Okay, we've already read that before in the previous chapter. Now, the rest of the acts of Abijam and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the king of Judah? So notice how all of these kings and situations that we're looking at are going to be reviewed again from a little bit different aspect many times. So if you say, well, Abijam, only 3 years, they don't talk about him too much. You're right, they don't talk about him too much. He only hung around for a while, and what he did really wasn't too significant, because he just kept on going what Rehoboam had been doing. He just keep on, hey, we got this cultic practice going on, and it was cult, that's all it was, and that's the word for it. It was cultic practice that was going on. And it was happening in the northern, it was happening in the southern kingdom. The rest of the acts of Abijam, all that he did, are they not written in the book of Chronicles, the king of Judah? There was war between Abijam and Jeroboam. The same way that there was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam, Abijam takes up. And they're trying to push the borders, is what they're trying to do. So instead of fighting against Syria, instead of fighting against the Moabites, instead of fighting against the Philistines, or even the Egyptians, are fighting against each other. I don't even want to give two more comment on that. So Abijam rested with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David. Then Asa, his son, reigned in his place. Okay, Abijam. We have David. Then we have Solomon, and then we have the split with Rehoboam and Jeroboam. After Rehoboam, there was Abijam, and now we have Abijam's son, Asa, his son, reigned in his place. In the 20th year of Jeroboam, so Jeroboam has been king over the northern section for 20 years, when Asa becomes king over the southern. In the 20th year of Jeroboam. That's why I tell you, for me, I'm trying to keep all of this into somewhat of an understanding. And he reigned 41 years. So Asa is going to reign for 41 years in Jerusalem. His grandmother's name was Maacah, who we find out and we know already was Abijam's mother, the granddaughter of Abishalom. Notice how the word shalom is in this Abishalom's name. Asa did what was right in the eyes of the Lord Yahweh, as did his father David. And we're going to see these. We're going to see good kings and bad kings. We're going to see ones that were partially successful and other ones that, really pushed those borders a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger. Asa did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, as did his father David. And he banished the perverted persons from the land. There, remember, we're talking about the perverted persons. He banished the perverted persons from the land and removed all the idols that his father had made. So the man he's doing well. Why, usually you're just going to do what daddy did, but he doesn't do what daddy does. He goes all the way back to David. This man allows God to lead him in the things that he's doing. He banished the perverted persons from the land. All this immorality, not all of it, but a lot of the immorality that's going on, he says, okay, we don't do this here anymore. He removed all the idols that his father had made. He removed Maacah, his grandmother, from being queen mother. Now that's a gutsy move. It sounds like Abijam's mom was calling a lot of the shots. That's the way that I can kind of read this. And he removes her from being queen, because she had made an obscene image of Asherah. You have to do your homework and find out what the Asherah pole is all about. Okay. Asa cut down her obscene image and burned it by the brook Kidron, which is right outside of Jerusalem. So, this phallic symbol that was part of the Asherah cult that his grandmother had been part of and really pushing that. It's that Jezebel spirit that came in and came in and came in. We still trying to come in over and over. But the high places were not removed. So for some reason or another, Asa was taking care of the things that were going on the lower level, but the high places he was never able to get in. He was there for 40-some years. And interesting question, why did he not take down the high places, which were those shrines, those altars that were up there in the forests, up there that were dedicated to these false gods? But the high places were not removed. Nevertheless, Asa's heart was loyal to the Lord all his days. And thank God that there's going to be an Asa every once in a while coming down the line. That someone's going to say, yep, we're going to, good morning, Debbie, how are you doing this morning? Steve is also there. But the high places were not removed. Now, here's my takeaway from this personally. Are there areas in my life that have to be taken care of? We can take care of some of the things, but are we taking care of all of them or not? Are we allowing him to be Lord over our lives? Or are we going to hear him say, as we find out in the end of the 7th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, away from me, I knew you not. But the high places were not removed. Nevertheless, Asa's heart was loyal to the Lord Yahweh all his days. He also brought into the house of the Lord the things which his father had dedicated, and the things which he himself had dedicated, silver and gold and utensils. So bringing back, trying to restore the temple. That's what Asa was trying to do. That is the center of the religious life of Israel, is the temple. We already know that Jeroboam in the north had 2 2 golden calves and didn't want anybody to go down to Jerusalem. They probably won't come back. And there were people that were going to leave the northern kingdom and move, even though they weren't part of Judah. They were going to move down there because that's where the temple and that's where a lot of reforms were trying to happen. But it's going to be a long road. We're going to be talking about generations of kings that are going to be coming and going until the Assyrians and the Babylonians show up one of these days to bring judgment upon the house of Israel. He also brought into the house, verse 15, the things which his father had dedicated, the things which he himself had dedicated, silver and gold and utensils. Now there was war between Asa and Baasha, king of Israel, all their days. So now we are introduced to Jeroboam's successor, Baasha. Okay? And Baasha, king of Israel, came up against Judah, built Ramah, that he might let none go out or come into Asa, king of Judah. Now, Ramah was right there on the border between the north and the south. And what Baasha has done is Baasha has built this, it wasn't a wall, but what he had done is he had built up this city because everybody that was coming from the north down to the south had to pass through Ramah, and this guy builds it up so that he might not let none go out or come in. So what he's doing is he's trying to establish, and this is deeper down into the south. This is more into the southern kingdom, is that he has built this place. And if these people keep on going down to Jerusalem, if they keep on going down to the temple, if they keep on starting to talk about Yahweh and about the Feast of Tabernacles and Passover and Yom Kippur and all of these times, he said, we're going to lose them. We got to keep them. We got to keep them from the true faith, and that's what the king of Israel is doing. So he builds up this town that is really, and if my facts are correct, it was only about 5 miles north of Jerusalem. So he's starting, that line is starting to come down. Then Asa took all the silver and gold that was left in the treasuries of the house of the Lord and the treasuries of the king's house and delivered them into the hands of the servants. Now, once again, you're going to say he sends all of them. Well, you're going to see more of them going out and more of them, so all isn't really all. And King Asa, unless they have them in different places and they're emptying this bank account and they're entering that vault over there little by little. King Asa sent them to Ben-Hadad, the son of Tabrimim, the son of Hezion, king of Syria, who dwelt in Damascus, saying, let there be a treaty between you and me, as there was between my father and your father. And see, I have sent you a present of silver and gold. Come and break your treaty with Baasha, king of Israel, so he will withdraw from me. So what Asa does is Asa goes north beyond Baasha's land in Syria, and he pays this guy off to start attacking the northern kingdom so that they would leave him alone. And he sends them silver and he sends them gold. He says, let there be a treaty. I know you and Baasha got a treaty, but man, I got more money and I got more gold, I got more silver than Baasha does. So Ben-Hadad heeded King Asa, and he sent the captains of his armies against the cities of Israel. He attacked Ijon, Dan, Abel, Beth-Maacah, and all the Chinnereth with all the land of Naphtali. So if we would look at the map on that one, we would see that Dan and Chinnereth and all these places, they're in the northern part of Israel because the Syrians had come down, and what Baasha had to do is turn his troops around, and they had to go north so they could take on Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria. Leave me alone. Now it happened when Baasha heard it, that he stopped building Ramah and remained in Tirzah. So this whole building project and this whole boundary that he was trying to build between the south to cause people not to come from the south to the north or the north to the south, he has to stop it. And King Asa made a proclamation throughout all Judah. None was exempted. And they took away the stones and the timber of Ramah, which Baasha had used for building, and with them the king Asa built Geba of Benjamin and Mizpah. So now that the northern kingdom has been distracted by the Syrians, what the southern king has done is commanded everyone, now you are going to help me move that border back up to the north. We're going to go and we're going to get the same material that he has used to try to stop this flow. We're going to go up and we're going to build cities over there that are going to be these fortresses, these citadels against the north. Now we have religious wars. Earlier we had prophetic wars in yesterday's program, or was the day before, something like that. Today we got something different. We got the political, religious, us against them type of thing going on. Things haven't changed much, have they? So he makes a proclamation, and everybody, he's just, we're going to go. You guys are going to, everybody's going to be conscripted to go up and to get these building, the very building materials that he was using in Ramah. We're going to take them down, all the sheetrock, all the lumber, all the whatever it was. We're going to take it up, and we're going to go north, and we're going to establish the border. And this was, where was he doing it? In Benjamin. King Asa built Geba of Benjamin and Mizpah. The rest of the acts of Asa, all his might, all that he did, and the cities which he built, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? Now, I have a question in my mind, and I'm going to have to throw it out there. Did Asa, just a question, asking you all a question today, did Asa have to go to Syria to get his help? I guess, and to me it's an easy answer, but maybe it's just a little bit, well, maybe it's not practical enough, but don't you think that Asa, with all the things that he was doing, could have trusted in the Lord his God? Wasn't that the inheritance that he had received from David? Even from Solomon? The rest of the acts of Asa and all his might, all that he did, and all the cities which he built, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the king of Judah? But in the time of his old age, he was diseased in his feet. So the dude had a problem. Later years of his life, he rested with his fathers, was buried with his fathers in the city of David his father. Then Jehoshaphat his son reigned in his place. So we're starting to see the succession of kings here. And Asa has been around for a long time. I think we had read that he had been there for like 41 years or something like that. He had done real well. Now we got something going on. Let's go back onto the northern. That's why I say, for me, now we're leaving the southern and we're going for a paragraph or two up to the northern kingdom. Now Nadab, the son of Jeroboam, became king over Israel in the second year of Asa, king of Judah, and he reigned over Israel 2 years. So kind of like the guy who was in between Asa and Rehoboam, Abijam, lasted 3 years. Nadab, who takes over for Jeroboam, because it's his son, only lasts 2 years. He did evil in the sight of the Lord Yahweh, and he walked in the way of his father, and in his sin by which he had made Israel sin. So he keeps this cult franchise theme going on. Anybody want to be a priest? Anybody have an altar? Anybody want to serve a God? Bring them all in. We'll serve them all. We'll just find out who's kind of like a tournament. Then Baasha, the son of Ahijah. Is there a call for holiness in the land, ladies and gentlemen? Is there a call for purity? Is there a call? You know what? The Bible says this specifically. And the world's going to tell us, well, you guys are just so exclusive. You guys, well, the Bible says there's only one way to the Father and through its Son, Christ Jesus. There's only one way. I see the Facebook wars. I look at the posts and I see the Facebook, and there's some questions that are being asked on Facebook of people. And whether you agree with them or not, we have to go to the source. We have to go to the Word and the Holy Spirit and allow Him to bring revelation of that Word into our lives to answer these questions. And you know what? The Bible is very specific. There's only one way. There's no other way. We have a great high priest. Only one. And all this syncretism, and see, that was going on, is everybody kind of bringing in their own God and doing their own thing and trying to fit them together. They don't fit together. Let me tell you what. All the religions of the world fit together pretty good until you bring Christianity into it, and then all of a sudden they don't fit anymore. So what's the problem? Well, in man's mind, the problem is Christianity, because Christianity doesn't fit with the rest of all the religions that are going on. And the rest of the religion, they're willing to compromise here and compromise there and say, yeah, come on. And then you bring Jesus into the mix and nobody can agree on anything. And they say, well, it's Christianity's the problem. I'm telling you, Christianity isn't the problem. It's all the other issues that are the problem. It's very easy to try to serve your religious inclinations with all the other things that are out there, with all the other gods that are out over there. A little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's like Fur's Cafeteria. Now, it don't work. Yeah, we're almost running out of time here, ladies and gentlemen. We only got a couple of more minutes. Then Baasha, the son of Ahijah, of the house of Issachar, conspired against him. So Nadab, who is the son of Jeroboam, in the second year, has an enemy. And verse 27 reveals who this is. Baasha, the son of Ahijah, of the house of Issachar, conspired against him, and Baasha killed him at Gibbethon, which belonged to the Philistines, while Nadab and all Israel laid siege to Gibbethon. I have no idea what these guys from the north were doing all the way into the Philistine territory, but Baasha killed him in the 3rd year of Asa, king of Judah, and reigned in his place. And remember, Asa was going to be with us for 40-some years. In his 3rd year is when Baasha kills Nadab, whatever it is, and so these are things going on in the north and going on in the south. And it was so. Verse 29, when he became king, that he killed all the house of Jeroboam. So Baasha says, okay, I'm going to take care of business here. I'm going to make sure that nobody from Jeroboam's house. Remember, Jeroboam was not a direct relative of David. Jeroboam was just a very faithful servant in David's land. And he had taken over it, and God had given it to him, torn away the 10. We all believe that, but Jeroboam had been asked to trust in the Lord with all his heart. He did not leave to Jeroboam anyone that breathed until he had destroyed him according to the word of the Lord, which he had spoken by his servant Ahijah the Shilonite, because the sins of Jeroboam, which he had sinned, and by which he had made Israel sin, because of his provocation with which he had provoked the Lord of Israel to anger. And we're running out of time, so we're going to have to say, we will see you on Monday. 6 o'clock in the morning, to continue with this chapter. The prayer line is open for you at 505-310-9658.
Creatures of our God and King,